This episode of the podcast is brought to you by J.D. Chapman Insurance Agency. Are you an aspiring business owner or entrepreneur looking to be part of New York's multi-billion-dollar cannabis industry? If so, the decisions you make in these early stages are imperative to your future success. And I'll tell you from personal experience that you will face risk on a daily basis. So it's important to have a comprehensive insurance program in place with a trusted, reliable partner. J.D. Chapman offers special insurance for cannabis growers, medical and adult use dispensaries, edibles manufacturers, testing labs, ancillary businesses, and more. Available coverage includes general liability, product liability, excess liability, and workers' comp. In this exciting and rapidly growing industry, it's important to have a partner you can trust. Contact J.D. Chapman today at 315-986-4062 for all your cannabis insurance needs. J.D. Chapman, from seed to sale, they have you covered.
The views and opinions expressed on this show belong solely to the hosts and their guests and do not reflect the views of any outside institutions unless explicitly stated.
What's up, everyone? My name is Steve Vanderwall, and I'm the host of Cannabis Cum Laude, a podcast devoted entirely to cannabis. This podcast will cover a full spectrum of topics, including cultivation, business, medicine, politics, culture, advocacy, and everything in between. Because let's face it, the cannabis industry is very complicated. It's robust, and it has a ton of moving parts. So it's going to be my job to help you understand it a little bit better. So tune in every week for a brand new episode. And if you enjoy this podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review the show. And if you really like the show and are interested in sponsoring, please shoot me an email at logistics@cannabiscumlaude.com. Now enjoy the show. Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Cannabis Cum Laude. Hope you all had a great Memorial Day weekend. Super excited to be here today as we continue this theme of how do we transition from the legacy to legal market. A couple episodes back, we had Josh Waterman on from the newly founded Legacy Growers Association. And then last episode, we had Dave Holland and founding members from the New York Green Coalition to talk about the new amnesty proposal that's floating around New York. So now I have the pleasure of sitting down with the founding members of the New York Green Coalition. And I'll let you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hey, Steve, this is Jeff Medford. I'm Jeff Medford. Pleasure to be here on your podcast. We are listeners, so it's nice to be in the hot seat for a change.
Welcome. Glad to have you.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having us.
I'm Eunice Johnson Day. I'm the executive secretary for the New York Green Coalition.
Welcome. Thanks for coming.
My name is Jesse Watson. I'm the spokesman for the New York Green Coalition and the outreach person as well.
Thanks for coming.
I appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you guys being here. I really do, and I appreciate the good work you're doing.
Thank you.
So the New York Green Coalition is a relatively new organization. What was your y'all's motivation for starting this organization?
Well, of course, as everyone knows, that I am in the industry. And I was invited to New York. I was actually sponsored by Women's Grow. A sister by the name of Tanya Osborne actually sponsored me to go to New York City and go to a Reverie meeting. This was the earlier part of the year. So I attended that meeting. I was really excited, just fired up about coming back home here to Rochester and just spreading the good news and just kind of motivate people. I kind of felt that New York City, downstate, was really on top of their game. And I said, man, we got to bring that same energy back to Rochester. So as soon as I got back to Rochester, I decided to go to I think it was a Rock Normal meeting where Mary Kruger was hosting the meeting. And right in the middle of the meeting, I met this gentleman by the name of Mike Patterson.
Shout out Big Daddy Mike.
That's right, absolutely.
Shout out Mike.
And Mike just jumped up and said, "Hey man, I'm just looking for somebody who's a part of the street entrepreneurial team to come and talk to me. And, I didn't speak at first, but I listened to what he had to say. And then I was like, hey, listen, I know some folks that will be willing to sit down and talk to you. And we exchanged numbers, and I told him, give me a call in a couple of days, and I'll set something up. And from that, I just set something up with some friends, associates of mine, people I knew who are in the industry, and we sat down, came together, and had a little powwow. And that's how it all began.
Yeah, I think Mike Patterson has gotten shouted out on this podcast the last 3 episodes because, as we start, we're starting to see the rollout of the program. We saw the first round of cultivation licenses comes out. Now the card licenses are coming out, the conditional adult use retail dispensary licenses. So things are starting to roll along. And the big question is how do we include the people who've built this industry, the legacy growers, the legacy makers, the legacy distributors and sellers? And not only that, how do we do that without incriminating and them or their network? It's a very tough question. And I think the core of that is, obviously there's policy that has to happen, but it's trust. And I think this is, one of our first conversations that we had was how do you do it? It's trust. That's it.
Trust.
That's it. You can't have any of this other shit without trust. And when I first met, we all and everyone's a little hesitant to come out and talk to legislators and politicians or what have you. And since the day that I met Mike Patterson, which actually was, I believe, at the Green Lounge.
Okay.
I was like, this guy's the real deal. He cares.
He does.
He's in it for us. And I'm really happy that, we're all rowing in the same direction because he's a great asset to Rochester cannabis and New York cannabis in general. But
absolutely. I mean, to have someone in the position that he is in, he's genuine.
Yeah.
And that's what made me warm up to him. He's genuine. He keeps his word. And, I support him in anything that he does because he's really supported the cannabis industry here in Rochester, New York. Really good supporter. And he brings people together. He keeps us in the loop of, what's going on. And
he also does a lot of traveling, too, to see how other states are failing or
doing
advancing to just make sure we're kind of in the loop of knowing, how these states are doing, just to make sure we don't make the same mistakes they make.
I think we all can be a little bit frustrated with, how long it's taking arguably the most progressive state to legalize cannabis. But I will say one of the benefits is that we have 15, 16 other states that have already done it to look at, what's worked, what hasn't, what mistakes, what things can we avoid and mistakes can we avoid, and what things can we see that's worked in terms of license rollout and social equity and all these huge topics. Who's done it, and let's copy and paste that. That's kind of the nice thing about being a little late to the game is that we have all these little, states to look at as case studies. So I think one of the biggest, before we get into the conversation about, how do we start to get legacy operators in here, we have to figure out how do we define a legacy operator. I think everybody, who works in the industry has their own definition. I think people at the state level have their own definition, if they even have a definition at all yet. To the New York Green Coalition, how do you define a legacy market operator?
Well, I would define myself as more of a processor legacy operator because I've been dealing with the end result of it, edibles and things like that and juices. So for me, I would consider myself legacy because when I was doing it, I couldn't do it legally.
Yeah.
Now that we approached that point to where I can do it legally, I can definitely consider myself legacy because I've been in it for so long. And, I just hold a lot of information and a lot of different skill sets. And I think the legacy people would be considered the most experienced.
Certainly.
That's what the kind of legacy means to me.
Mm-hmm. I have a very broad, I don't go by the fact that you've had to been arrested or convicted of a crime because I'm a cultivator, and most cultivators I know, they've never been arrested.
No.
You know what I mean? And they've mastered the fine art of being as clandestine as possible. So I would define legacy as someone who's been in this industry, who's earned a living in this industry, and it doesn't have to mean that they've put a seed in the ground. They could be your local street entrepreneur They can be a transporter. They can be a trimmer. A host. If you have touched this plant, or even if you haven't touched this plant in some ways, you can be considered legacy.
Sure.
It has nothing to do with just your color. You know what I mean? I've heard the term black and brown, but I think it's a much broader spectrum than just black and brown people. You look at my main man, 50 grand, Mr. Dankenstein. You know what I mean? He's Caucasian, definitely a white guy, but he's in this shit, man.
Oh, yeah.
He's real with it. You know what I mean? And those are people that I consider as legacy market players as well.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
For me, legacy is my grandfather was a farmer. My dad did farming. So for me, it's in my blood.
Yeah.
So to me, that's what legacy is.
Yeah, and I think it doesn't matter, what you do in the supply chain, what you look like, if you've been in it and you've been doing it, and you got experience, even if you only got a couple years of experience or you've been doing it for decades, there's a lot of information in this market that I do think, the state is looking to use this information productively. I don't think that there's really any intent to incriminate legacy market operators. At least from the conversations I had, Chris Alexander and Jim Rogers and, Senator Cooney, all these people that are really, taking the reins to cannabis, they seem like they really care. And they seem like they really are trying to figure out, how does the market that's already existing doing it compared to what do we think that it's doing, But I would agree with all of you. I happen to define legacy operators very similar.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from a New York Green Coalition perspective, what types of initiatives are y'all doing? Whether it's meeting, whether it's having conversations, whether it's working on policy. What are some of the initiatives that you all are working on right now?
Well, some of the initiatives that we're working on is we're doing a lot of outreach. That's one of the initiatives as well, and we're also in the process of just building some different events together so that people can, so that the New York Green Coalition can be recognized as well. And also, we want to do what we can as far as the community is concerned. That's why we reach out a lot to as many people as we possibly can that are in the industry. Sure. And we also just try to invite people to as many meetings as we possibly can, so that they can have a leg up on what's coming. It's not for everybody. Of course, some people would rather stay in their own lane per se. But we just want to give out as much information as we possibly can just to make moving forward as least bumpy as possible.
Yeah, I think what's super valuable about organizations like the New York Green Coalition and Legacy Growers Association, it kind of provides that almost like a gatekeeper for legacy operators who are interested in putting their face to their name and coming out, out of the legacy closet, and people who are still a little bit nervous, and rightfully so, kind of using these organizations as megaphones to, relay the, some of this information and some of the concerns and wants for this industry without having to worry about incriminating yourself. So I think the work that you guys are doing is incredibly valuable. And I think we're really just getting started,
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, definitely just getting started.
I'm sorry. We also hired a lobbyist. Nice. Her name is Jennifer Richardson. She's from Patrick B. Jenkins in Albany. Because we wrote a bill and we had submitted it to Senator Majority Leader Crystal Peoples-Stokes several weeks ago. We knew we were late when we submitted it, but we did submit it. We did have a conversation with her. We are also in conversation with OCM, trying to assist them and helping them assist us with getting into the market and helping them with the regulations.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. What was, give me a little bit of information about what that bill was that you, can you talk about that a little bit?
The bill was kind of consistent with the exact same language that was used with regard to the hemp growers. And we just asked that, the legacy market also be given an opportunity to have a conditional license whereby we could, do the exact same things, follow the same type of protocol, but do it inside, which is something that we're very adept to doing, that we've been doing for countless years.
And in that bill, we added some language that would assist them in including us now. like some things for verification purposes and stuff like that.
What type of thing? Like, what does that look like?
Well, the biggest struggle that we're having right now is actually, and we're trying to work with different organizations, different masterminds, just to figure out how can we vet ourselves into this process. You know what I mean? We've not just the growers, but the entire legacy market has really prided itself on being underground and not being out front. So it's the exact opposite now. We've got to work the other way and try to get ourselves into the legal market, which isn't an easy situation.
Yeah, and last week we had sat down and we talked to Dave Holland about his proposal. I think there's some good things about it, and I think there's some things that need revisions. And I know we talked about this last time. You guys all have a little an opinion on that new amnesty proposal?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
we all got opinions on that one.
Yeah.
Hot button.
But we did notice. I mean, because he was a criminal defense attorney, so the language looked like the language of someone who was like signing statements on somebody or something like that, because it was so detailed. But and we don't want to put anyone in position to where they can find themselves in harm's way, because
For us to get in, step on anybody's back.
Yeah.
because I would hate to say, okay, I have my license as a legacy, but I gave information on where I got my flower from, and it could go backwards and backwards and backwards, and I don't think we should have to give up information like that just to be a part of a business that we kind of started ourselves. Because what they don't realize is legacy, we've been around that long. They're coming into our space, and it's and they're trying to make us, okay, you're going to play by, they're trying to get us to play by their rules.
And teach them ours.
And teach them ours at the
Hand
same
it over.
time. And it's like, I believe your pavement operators, I'm not going to call them street operators, they're pavement operators, and they're pavement, entrepreneurs. They can show you, how to do it from the pavement point of view, but
They paved the way, though.
because they actually did pave the way
We
for
all
all of
did.
this,
We paved the
and
way. If it
people,
wa- sorry.
people's lives have been destroyed. They got some free labor out of the deal. Some fatherless homes out the deal, and we shouldn't have to go through so much just to say, that we're part of this legal space. That legal space should be, honestly, to me, that legal space should be actually, investing into the pavement operators, saying, hey, we don't want you guys here, so we're going to give you this funding to take this building. Because if you got a block and, there's several people on that block, that's technically theirs. So I don't think, some other company should be allowed to just come into that neighborhood and, attempt to take over when, these pavement operators have been there, for years, securing that particular area and that notoriety of that area for having, quality cannabis and things of that nature.
Yeah, I think it's we keep hearing talks about mentorship, and one of the things that frustrated me, and there's nobody in New York State that wants this industry to succeed more than me. I eat it, I sleep it, I breathe it. I love this industry. It's who I am. It's what I do. It's really, quite frankly, all that I know. But one thing that really frustrated me, and sometimes it seems like I'm knocking on hemp farmers, and I'm certainly not knocking on hemp farmers. They've been kicked around. They had a tough 4 years in the CBD space. But one of the things that frustrated me with this new cultivation bill was that it was almost like talking down to the legacy market operators that they need to be mentored. They don't know how to run a business,
Yeah.
Correct.
And maybe there's some things that, as you transition to the legal market, things like 280E and compliance, sure. Everybody needs mentorship on shit like that.
Yeah.
But to almost write into a bill that, almost like we need to educate the legacy operators, before. I think that needs to be the other way around.
Yeah, that's what it is too. I
But
think that they should actually monetize that so that the legacy can teach them, because they're not teaching us anything. And it's to go through a mentorship program about something that you already know, or to go through a mentorship program while teaching, because a lot of the mentor programs and things of that nature, You know, a lot of people don't need it, you know, but I think they put it in there just so people can have like a little paper trail kind of way of getting in there. Okay, you went through this, you went through that, you went through this. However, you know, let the people's experience speak for itself.
Because the experience that will be the people who would do the mentor program, they already got 30 years experience. Just say this. This is just an example. And the hemp farmer may only have, 4 years. And this one got 30. So all actuality, all the money that the hemp farmer is going to make, majority of it was off the back of that farmer that had 30 years and it was legacy. Because other than that, it might have been trash that he had produced or she had produced. So therefore, one would have made millions. One would have just got the salary on it. One would have built generational wealth. One wouldn't have. There lies the problem.
Yeah, I think the moral of the story is that there needs to be a little bit of mutual
Yes.
mentorship of everything. You know, now it's this amnesty proposal, which is one of what will probably be a few, is saying how do, I don't like to use extract information, but how do we extract information from the legacy market to make a thriving legal market? Well, that's great. Let's pretend that we all give here's how you grow, here's how you distribute, here's how supply chains.
Give it all up.
Is the only incentive at the end of the day
A license?
a license?
Yeah, for real, no money, but want consulting services, because that's consulting services, and all these powers that be also have a consulting budget, but not in one shape or form in any conversation that they offer that as compensation, because it's a job that you want somebody to perform, but you didn't offer any compensation. So that's also another, I'm not going to say unfair.
Yeah, because if we're all working for Deloitte or some big consulting firm, and you're coming in getting billed at $500 an hour,
Correct.
Sure, I'll give you all the info. You need 50 hours of my knowledge.
There you have
Here's
it.
where you write
And
the
that's
check.
the thing. That's what I'm saying. They have to monetize it for, because I mean, a lot of people, information is valuable, and the information that they're attempting to obtain, for free, and then charge you, it's just don't make any sense.
And make you pay a fine on top of that.
Up to $1 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sliding scale amnesty fee up to $1 million.
Well, I think that sliding scale fee, I think what it is it looks like the language just to appease the lawmakers,
Correct.
Because, after being in a court system and things like that, you kind of understand the language that they want to use. He understands that, okay, this is the language that they understand best.
Yeah,
they understand best when they feel like they're getting something.
But that I want to say something about that. That can also be a way to block people out as well.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
When you have a sliding scale like that, you can just say, hey, well, listen, I think you made X amount of dollars for X amount of years. So pay the fine, give us $1 million, and we'll let you come to the party.
Yeah, because that makes you be able to charge each person differently and have something to stand on. Nah, that's not fair. And it's based on your rules.
I honestly think that there should be some kind of like a grandfather type of clause for that, because it's about proving that your legacy too, though. That's one of the things, is because, when you in the shadows a lot, it's hard to prove that, you were in the dark.
No resume.
You don't have any resumes and a lot of things like that. Of course, you may have some, some purchases, some record of purchases and things of that nature, but
Steve, you know what I feel? This is the bottom line. If you don't give as many legacy participants, especially those that want to participate. Now, you have a lot of people that never participate. They have no idea. They have no
Wants or desire.
no desire to come into this
or
this
no
legal
incentives.
market. Yeah. None whatsoever. So it would make sense to me is to put as many licenses in legacy people's hands, so that you do not. I mean, other than that, you're going to split this market, and you are going to have two different markets. And I can tell you right now, if you ever have two different markets, you will have failed. This state will have failed if you have two different markets, because one thing, they're not going to outprice the street.
Legacy market's undefeated.
Right. They're not going to outprice the street at all, and they're not going to have the same quality as the street has. So I mean, like, to me, it just, let everybody come in, man. We are legacy, and we're trying to build a legacy for our children and for our families.
Correct.
And we're trying to do this without having to look over our shoulders. You know what I mean? I don't know about everybody else, man. I'm not no young cat. You know what I'm saying? I'm 57 years old. I'm not trying to be out here in these streets doing what I'm doing another 10, 20 years. I don't want to do that. I'd like to give it up to my family, my sons, my daughters, my grandchildren, and let them go ahead and do what they have to do. So this is a deeper thing than just, you know, making money for us.
Generational wealth.
You know, we want to do something for our families. It's going to last. That's what it's about.
So let's pretend everybody in this room has a magic wand. And what, if you could have it your way, if there is a way, what do you think, from a legislative and like a policy perspective, what do you think an amnesty bill looks like that would not only protect legacy but incentivize legacy to come to the legal market?
I think if it has to be they have to have something in return. Legacy got to get something in return. We just can't give you everything we have, but I think a good way for them to do it would, you know, have people just give up minimal information, you know, like RG&E bills and, you know, some of the prices for the chemicals, pottery, soil, and things of that nature. Because first thing they're going to show you is they don't own any land, so they're not using this for a farm. So I think that would be a good way to just let legacy people in. And, you know, like I said before, just do like a grandfather kind of clause, you know, because, you know, you got history on everybody. You know, Big Brother's always watching. So a lot of things, you know, they'll deny, but they really can't deny because you've been watching people for years. You know, you couldn't just solidify the cases that you were trying to build on people. And also, if they do have like cases that they had to dismiss now because of the legalization, if you have legacy operators that you have on case that you had, you know, you have to, through the Freedom of Information Act, let that information out so that people can just grandfather it in. Okay, we know you were legacy because we was watching you for the last 10 years. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I thought the idea of the tribunal was a pretty good idea. I thought, you know what I mean, and I really was happy to see that they had included a few legacy people on that panel. I thought that was a brilliant idea. You know what I mean? I'm not going to shoot everything down that brother wrote because, you know what I mean, I am truly grateful. You know, the mere fact that he took the time out, you know, to write a 10-page white letter to even, it needs some improvement. I think it can be adjusted and tweaked, but the mere fact that he did that.
It's a good start. We needed to start somewhere.
Yes.
We've all been talking about it, all these organizations. No one really knows how, I mean, we know how it sounds up here,
right?
But to actually put pen to paper, you know, it was a good step in the right direction. And I think even after our conversation, he recognizes that it still needs some work. You know, I know Dave Holland personally. He's a great guy, and he's been really in the thick of it, you know, for a long time. So if there's anybody I'd want at the reins, it would be Dave Holland. But I also think, you know, he has a lawyer hat and a criminal defense hat. You have to be able to put your legacy hat on. And if you've never been in the legacy market, you probably don't have a legacy hat to wear.
Right.
So, you know,
I think if he got with some legacy folks and just sat down and we all brainstormed, you know what I mean? I think that would be a really, really powerful thing.
And also they need to have legacy on all of these boards. They're definitely, because a few of these boards and a few of these committees and things that they have, there's no legacy there. They're just policymakers. People who getting paid to try to figure something out that they know nothing about. So the best thing for them to do is hire some legacy people. You know, don't be afraid to hire some legacy people. That's all they had to do. If they had legacy people on all of these different panels and boards,
make their job
I think
easy.
things would go a lot faster. It'd be a lot easier because they have the knowledge and the know-how from somebody with experience.
Hey, Steve. Shout out to Mayor Malik Evans.
Malik Evans. Hell yeah.
I had to say that because one of the first things he did is he put me on the readiness committee.
That's huge.
The Cannabis Readiness Committee. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that.
Can you talk a little bit about the readiness committee and what you guys are doing and whatever information you can talk about?
It's so funny. It's so funny when you say
put you on the spot.
the readiness committee. No, it's all right. I've went to one meeting thus far. I haven't been to any other meetings because I don't think I've been invited. But I will say, I will say, in the infamous words, and I've heard this, the mayor wasn't the first one to use this, but the mayor said, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. Yeah. So as far as I'm concerned, the day that I got back from New York City, I've been trying to stay ready. Yeah. And I've been trying to keep everyone within my sphere of influence ready. Yeah. And anyone who comes and wants some information and wants to join us in our plight to get legacy operators activated and licensed, please come and join us. You know what I mean?
416 St. Paul Street, 6 p.m. on Thursdays are our meetings.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, we looking to, add on as many people to the team as possible, because we understand that there are quite a few different groups throughout the state. And if we can all just kind of, make a conglomerate, and we can just, the strength is going to be in the numbers. Totally. Because you got us doing this over here, these people doing this over here, those doing that. Just come together, team build, work on our ideas, problem solutions, collaborate with each other, and we could probably knock it out the park then. But they have to give us some of the tools so that we can do that. If you got all these different panels, but you guys are not inviting legacy. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've been to a few of these meetings, we've been to a few of these discussions, and that's one thing I noticed is that, they have people from the business sector there, of course, like even at the Chamber of Commerce meeting there are half of those people in there. Half of those people in there had no idea what the cannabis business was about, but they understand the money that's going to be coming. So you got people that never consulted with cannabis before, but they're going to use their consulting skills to become cannabis consultants.
Man, listen.
When the legacy operator or,
has the experience,
or your pavement operators or, some of these guys, those are the guys that you need on your board because they can tell you how it's going to really go.
If you want a thriving cannabis economy, it's not that difficult. Just, just keep it simple. Go to the people who've been doing it.
Simple.
That's
keep
simple.
It simple.
Yes. You know what I mean? And if you're really smart, you will provide a space for us downtown so that when your tourists come and they like to spend that $2-3 million a year, you got somebody who knows what they're doing, who can produce
premium
a really
product.
good product. Now that's smart.
You know what I think, and I agree with you about let's give out more licenses than none. I think that we have to avoid what happened in Oregon where they literally gave out licenses of all sizes to everybody, and then there was this huge oversupply.
Yeah.
And units were going for $300-400, and it's still a huge problem. Mm-hmm. But I think, I tend to talk a lot about the micro business license. That's where,
love it.
Craft brewery, you go 10 miles in any direction, you're running into 5 craft breweries. Mm-hmm. Not only are they all successful and crushing it, but they're all working together. Right? Mm-hmm. Same thing with cannabis. If you can give out those if you start giving out 50,000 square foot grows and manufacturing these huge operations, I could see how it could get a little bit diluted, right? Mm-hmm. But these little tiny micro licenses where you can operate as a cultivator, as a manufacturer, as a distributor, as a delivery driver, we should be giving those out like hotcakes. Mm-hmm. Are some people going to fail? Sure. Mm-hmm. Entrepreneurship is hard in any industry.
Oh yeah, right?
Any industry. Mm-hmm. You come into this business, it's extra hard. I think the state is a little. I don't know. I keep hearing, we're going all these, first 100 licenses are going to succeed. No, they're not. A lot of people are going to fail. Cultivators are going to fail. Dispensary operators are going to fail. It's just the nature of the game, whether you're in cannabis or not. Mm-hmm. But I think this micro business, tied with, legacy. I think most legacy market operators want to stick to their craft, do it on more of a smaller scale compared to the, what these MSOs are doing. If we could figure out a really tactical way to give away these micro business licenses to these legacy market operators, you will see an industry like we have not seen in the country.
And
I do believe that.
Legacy should also be tied to social equity as well. Mm-hmm. Because you got some legacy operators that, they've been affected by the war on drugs and, they're still out here, but, they have their 10 years in prison, things of that nature. Give it to these people, what I'm saying? Give it to all of us. We created it. We're letting you in our space. You want us to pay you to get in. It's like you got to pay somebody just to live. You know what I mean? It's like it's I don't know. It's a little silly sometimes for me to even think about it. Like, wait a minute, you guys are finding a legal space. You see what's going on with all these other states, and yet you guys still haven't learned that you need that you got to have some legacy people on all of your boards. You have to, or it's going to fail because if people don't see themselves in position to where they can make a change, they're not going to even be in that position. They're not going to even try to get into the legal space. Because, I mean, if somebody said, well, okay, well, I know this guy, he started this way, he started this way. Okay, I see these, they got this person on the board, that person on the board. You know, some of the figures that have been kind of hiding, but, you know, the streets kind of know who they are, kind of stuff like that. We don't want to do no name dropping and stuff like that. But put these people there so that, because they have the best knowledge of everything. And we shouldn't have to give up our complete supply line just so they can say, okay, now pay us for your information. I mean, if you want us to teach, teachers get paid.
Yeah,
and
consultants get paid a lot of money.
And a lot of our legacy operators, you know, your pavement operators, your growers, your process guys been around for years. Those are teachers. Some of them are professors. Some of us have master's degrees in this stuff, you know. Pay us accordingly and we'll help you all the way through. But we shouldn't have to pay you for you to come in our space. And that's just the bottom line for
Absolutely.
us. That's the thing that really kind of makes the pavement operators like, man, I don't want to do that, because they know that they'll be taxed the highest. You know, and we were speaking with somebody's, I can't remember the senator's name, but their chief of staff, and they were saying how not legacy, but social equity is going to start on the retail side. However, the retail side is going to be taxed the highest. So there's no way you can create generational wealth like that. You're going to give people a few dollars, but you're not going to create no generational wealth. They know that.
Cougar. That was Senator Cougar's aide said that they were giving priority to the dispensary side, but we already had seen the taxes on the dispensary side. So therefore, the money would not be to the actual owner or entrepreneur. It would actually go to the state.
Yeah, I mean, and at that chamber event, Rosanna St. John made a really good point. She's actually coming on the episode tomorrow to talk about taxes and kind of the card program. But what she said was, you know, not only are the first round of licenses, you know, you're going to be taxed the heaviest, you know, 280E stuff, so your effective tax rate is going to be super high. But it's also... Yeah, no write-offs. You know, the state's essentially, you know, so you're already working on a very much smaller margin than you would in the legacy market. And then, you have the state, you know, coming in and saying, we're going to essentially fund turnkey 100 operations, which that sounds great. I think that's, you know, real estate is expensive. But what happens inevitably where, you know, you're working on a 10 to 20% margin and then your business goes under or you got to get out? Usually you can sell your business or sell your real estate. At least you don't own it.
For 3 to 4 years, they said that you have to, if I'm not mistaken, she said this at the conference, that if three to 4 years, and if you do not succeed, the MSO, the bigger company, just owns it.
Just gobbles you up.
It gobbles you up because you're still in debt to them. You're another indentured servant. That form way too. They picked indentured servant for social equity people to get in the market for the cultivation. They picked indentured servant for social equity people to get in dispensary. Now, come on. The whole point of the bill was to right a wrong, but yet you still using the same old ways to correct the same old issue. It didn't work before, and you cannot, it didn't work before, it's not going to work now. You can't come to the same people. This is like in any business. If you have people who already ran this whole market, you're going to come take it over, tell them now it's illegal, and tell them you got to come through me to get what you want. And you think that's not going to be a problem?
Yeah, you got to come in. If you want to come in the legal market to do what you're already doing, you got to give up everything that you know and all your friends and everything, and then you're gonna if we deem you worthy.
That's the thing too. It's like we're gonna deem you worthy. Hold up, man.
Here's
the thing,
and make it make sense.
And this is the thing that a lot of people got to realize is that the same people that are in office, they can be voted out.
Correct.
Period. Point blank. And that's the one thing I want to really put across is that people got to understand the power of their votes. You want to put the people in that are going to work for you. Like if you see these politicians and they're and they don't want to go the way you want them to go, dictate the pace of the game. We can't let them dictate the pace of our own game. So if we really make the difference, we gotta not only, fight, but we gotta start putting the people in office that we know gonna make the changes we need.
Correct. If they're not for us, they will ultimately be against us because it's only two sides of this. Fair is fair, right is right.
What year is this?
2022.
I'm saying, is this an election year?
It
Yeah,
sure is.
It's an election.
This is an election
my.
year.
And this has been going on for so long because even, just even back to this, where my family comes from, my family has been fighting for stuff like this for years, even with the land down there. And it's just far as not being let in and always have to fight to be let in something that they naturally did or was forced to do. Because if you go in the South, slavery forced to do. And this became an occupation for a lot of people. And due to, bad business loans, or, I forgot what they call when they did that, when they blocked them from getting the loans to be able to succeed in their farms. Right. It's like the same thing they doing today in 2022, but yet they saying they forced. And not just black and brown, but anybody does not fit their status quo. Mm-hmm. That's all I have.
Yep.
Yeah, it's we're hearing a lot of, we want to see change, we want to see legacy succeed, but at the core of it, it's the same shit that's been happening for 100 years.
And they keep trying to figure out ways to do something instead of listening to the people. How you gonna try to figure out something for us, but not talking to us? Right. We should have been the first you was talking to if you was really thinking of us. If you really was, because history has repeated itself so many times that it needs to stop and do something different. It's time for a change. We shouldn't even be sitting here having to have this conversation, because they could have been all over the news like they are, looking for legacy, saying they wanted to have this conversation, saying what they was considering. But they had all these backdoor conversations. And now look at it. We having conversations we want to be let in, but we were supposedly the market that they were right and the wrong for. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's, if I had my magic wand, you got this $200 million seed fund. Hey, $30 million's going to incentivize legacy market operators. You come in, we're going to help you, we're going to give you, $500,000 to do what you want. Plus the license.
$200 million. $5 million goes to the New York Green Coalition, just so the Green Coalition can help everybody on their way.
Correct.
Great.
And the community, because it's not like the businesses that are coming out the New York Green Coalition are also to help the community, to build the community, to heal some of this trauma going on in the community. It's a lot of things that are being birthed out of this. Yeah. So it's not just financial. It's the legacy, health, and wealth of the mind, body, and soul that will come out of this. It's way bigger than this. But being that they won't even let us in on this level, which is the level that brings in, just let's be truthful, the cultivation, the generational wealth at a different level. Mm-hmm. You don't want to let us into that. That's the one we fighting, because it's about money. We having these conversations and we being delayed because it's about money. And that's not fair, because if people have already been doing it, why do they have to beg, plead, bend over backwards to get in the market?
Right. Incriminate themselves.
Yes, to be in a market. Had it not been for them,
right,
it would not exist.
Mm-hmm. And I think, honestly, they've made enough money off of us already.
Correct.
I mean, you got billionaires, they're not going to readily admit, some of the politicians not going to readily admit how much they invested in private-owned prisons and things of that nature, and how much they invested in making sure they created these laws to keep people in particular positions that went in to ensure that their private-owned prisons had a profit. Yeah. So if you made a profit, you got to give some of that up. If we got to give up some of ours, y'all got to give up most of yours.
Absolutely. I will say that I do think that we are in such a stage where it can be done. I think legacy has been a bit left out of this is because people haven't felt safe enough to come forward. But, it's folks like you guys in the Legacy Growers Association where you start to, it's a little scary to somebody's got to put their face out there and say, this is who I do. I've been growing this. I've been doing this for 10 years. I'm going to be, the Trojan horse that hopefully is going to let everybody else in. So at the core of it, it's organizations like what you guys are doing that are going to pave the way for the rest of the industry. So, my hat is off to you. Seriously, I think the work that you guys are doing is incredible and necessary.
Thank you.
I think we still have a long way to go, but I think it's going to be conversations and groups like this that get what we really want to see at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
And we in it for the long haul.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we started this thing where we went to Albany and we started this thing with the lobbyists, and that's something that we're going to finish out to each and every license is done, because we want to be able to affect some positive change for everybody within our community as well. So we're going to be doing that every step of the way. Eunice also is organizing a fundraiser.
Yes. July 23rd. It'll be at the Water Street Music Hall. We'll have a casino night. It'll be a silent auction. In order for us to do the things we need to do and to help for the community and help us fight, we're going to, it'll be a benefit Black Tie Gala.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
So Water Street Music Hall, July when?
23rd.
July 23rd. More details to come.
Yes.
Yep.
Send me any information and we'll plug away for the next couple months.
Okay, thank you.
Before we wrap up, I want to ask, how can people join the coalition? Where can people find you and reach you?
Our website is nygreencoalition.org. We are located at 416 St. Paul Street. It's our corporate headquarters.
Awesome.
And last but not least, I'm sorry, Steve, I want to send a special shout out to our brother and comrade, Scribe the God.
Oh, yes.
Who couldn't be here today.
Yes.
We always
Grant
keep him in our
Atkins.
thoughts, in our prayers.
He's our team. We usually do this as a team.
Nice.
Yeah, we also looking forward to speaking with so many other coalitions and committees across the state. You know, as this podcast goes around, hopefully some of the people that have been here already, we can reach out to them. They can reach out to us as well, because like I said, this is a voting year. This is an election year. And this is the way we're going to make the change, because we know most of the politicians, they're going to talk the talk, stuff like that right there. But us as the voters, we can determine who's going to do the talking for us.
Absolutely.
And we stand together. This is the catch. I noticed that a lot of the legacy cultivators and processors and distributors and genetics people all over the state are working separately. I think we work separately, but we stand together. Yeah. So if you would see this, please reach out to us. We are trying to build something for all. And if the more people we have,
collaborations.
Yes, collaborations and the solidarity and justice, because that's what our mission statement, those are our words, our slogan, and we're willing to work. So please reach out to, us.
nygreencoalition.org.
Correct.
And also, don't forget, 416 St. Paul Street, every Thursday at 6 o'clock, we have our weekly meetings. Feel free to join in, and come by, just listen to the meetings, and you decide for yourself whether or not, it would be good for you. But we definitely want to reach out to all of those players in the game that think that they doing it on their own. Because we've met quite a few people that know a lot of the people that we know, and they're all just kind of doing it on their own. So let's stop doing it alone. Let's all do it together. If we do it together, we'll get there quicker, and not only that, we can definitely get what we want.
Strength in numbers.
Right.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Well, you guys, thank you so much
Well, thank you,
for
brother.
coming on the show. What a good talk. I hope we can do it again soon. I know I'll be seeing you at 6 p.m. on Thursday. I hope everybody is listening will too. This has been another episode of Cannabis Cum Laude. Appreciate the time and all the work you're doing.
Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, man.
We'll see you next week.
All right.
Thanks to our friends here at Rockbox Recording and Production in Rochester, New York. They are a full professional podcast and video studio designed by a radio guy for podcasters. Audio, video, voiceovers, editing, whatever. Mouth off at Rockbox at rockbox.com.
You can follow Cannabis Cum Laude on LinkedIn and all other social media platforms, as well as Cannabis. And if you'd like to help support the show, search up Cannabis Cum Laude on Patreon. And of course, all of those links are in the show notes. Thanks for watching and listening.